赤ん坊は3ヶ月まではぐんぐん大きくなる。それから少し成長は緩やかになる。
Yeah, tell that to my over 3-foot tall niece, lady. Oh, Uncle's back isn't what it used to be. Cold opener for this one featured Hana, I'm guessing using her god baby powers again. The Ojamajo gave chase, but were stopped by Majo Heart. Huh, that's kind of weird. This episode wasn't animated by Aoyama. I mean, this episode certainly had a lot of its isms, including the good old dragon drop, but no, Chuji Nakajima, who can be a solid animator, was the one behind this, and, well, maybe this was an off day for them. Anyway, the episode proper featured our heroines getting ready for Hana's second health exam with Majo Heart, and I'm also guessing practicing some of their magic, because someone must have cast a spell to make Ompu's forehead grow 3 sizes here. At the exam center, they met the usual attendants, including the Motas and the cephalopods, and oh my god. I mean, I already wasn't a huge fan of the octo squid, but ugh, up close it looks even worse. I mean, I get that these are supposed to be her tentacles, but with how flat they look, plus the wrinkles in her bib, I feel like I'm looking at pink amoebas approaching a Mario enemy reject.
And stop staring at me with them big old eyes!
I guess it's only appropriate that this thing's design would make me cringe just as much as her father's acting. The Motas also tried to show off their kids, but ended up revealing that they were just as lousy mothers as they were examiners. Granted, it did give Doremi a good moment to shine, as she managed to almost instantly make some formula through pure experience, and yet these two aren't exactly going to show their appreciation throughout this episode. Anyway, the exams began, starting with a true or false quiz on a game show-like setting. Yeah, we'll address that in just a minute. But anyway, the test started with a simple question regarding bathwater temperature. The Ojamajo were going to answer it correctly, but a wayward rattle drew Hana's attention to the opposite answer. The next question was about baby ball sterilization, which they were able to answer the way they wanted to this time, but... yeah, I'm gonna call BS on that. I actually looked it up, and it's actually recommended you take them out at the same time because 1, it's a lot more convenient, and 2, it just makes more sense. Was that really the best take they could have gotten out of Hachitaro, or was he supposed to sound like he was giving birth? Also, I read that boiling times can also vary depending on the bottle, and that you should more likely just read the manufacturer's instructions, so yeah, all around this was a question on par with...
Jigglypuff seen from above.
The final question was at least far more practical, being about body temperatures, but also highlighted the biggest issue with this test, as the Ojamajo had to stop in the middle for a diaper emergency, and thus had gotten all of the answers wrong. Okay, but if that's the case, then why not just make it a... Or hell, just about anything that doesn't involve this overcomplicated setup, where there were a ton of variables like everything we just saw that would hamper the examinee's ability to answer correctly. Also, if you don't want it to be a competition, then maybe you shouldn't model it after a competitive game show.
It just don't add up!
As a result, they got a yellow penalty card to signify a 3-strike system like in sports. The next part of the test was to give baths within a time limit, and thankfully, I don't actually have much to complain about here. The Ojamajo managed to finish washing Hana within the time limit with no real issue until... Well, great, now everyone's gonna fail because she has the beer bug. Nah, of course, they just cleaned her up normally, which scored them another yellow card for going over the designated time. I like this because there is arguably no real right or wrong answer here. After all, if Aiko hadn't cleaned up Hana, then she might have gotten sick later. Of course, they also could have just kept taking their chances if it meant avoiding getting another yellow card that would get Hana taken away from them altogether. In my opinion, this was a no-win scenario, but at least they prioritized Hana's health, which might have taken precedence. So yeah, again, a really good scene, with my only minor complaint being more of Hachitaro's awful acting. Bruh, I I've seen celebrities in court cry more convincingly than you. The final part of the test was a simple stroll through a path lined with checkpoints. Though apparently brooms are also okay, so the slovenly Multas went by air, and yet throughout the test they were almost constantly behind everyone else. Like, just how?
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
Anyway, the Ojamajo and cephalopods decide to walk together. They arrived at the first checkpoint, which of course turned out to be an obstacle in the form of a boo that still hadn't had lunch yet. Surprisingly though, Hazuki didn't run off like a madman as her motherly instinct told her to protect Hana in a kind of nice subtle bit of character growth for her, you know, as opposed to maintaining a toxic relationship. Anyway, Aiko dealt with the ghoul. Am I the one who actually finds that a little more terrifying? They found the next checkpoint in a dark cave and yeah, it's a mimic, it's a mimic, it's a mimic. Oh hey look, a mimic! But Hazuki dealt with it by brushing its teeth because she also wanted to educate Hana about dental hygiene. Yeah, they didn't really explain this all that well. From there, the third and final checkpoint were some trees. But anyway, they dealt with them kind of anticlimactically by just using the good old "Run away! Run away! Run away!" With that, all that was left was to reach the finish line. However, our protagonists were distracted by a baby duck that Hana tried to help. Feeling sorry for it themselves, the Ojamajo decided to risk another yellow card to help the little bird, even using the magical stage as a tracking spell. Alright, let's see where this ends up pointing. Is that the moon? Nah, of course, they eventually reunited the waterfalls, who apparently got the best animation of the episode. I mean, yeah, this is a significant plot point, and a good showing for our heroines, but at the same time, I question if they could have used it better in this next scene. Anyway, while they did do a good deed, they also left the course and went well above the time limit. This resulted in their third strike.
Mama 失格.
As if I need any more reason to find these two obnoxious as all hell. Also, yeah, this weird perspective shot was a prime example of what I was talking about when I said some of the animation of this episode was a little off. Either that, or maybe the Ojamajo are supposed to look like titans. That aside, I did like this bit of Majo Heart purposely giving the Ojamajo a subtle way out. Yeah, throughout the episode, they did a good job showing that she had been watching them throughout the duration of the exams and how they had actually gone above and beyond the normal constraints of an otherwise very flawed test system, which they could fix a little if they at least got rid of that stupid game show, but I digress. She seemingly left the floor open to let Shirimeko make a case for the Ojamajo. It was a good showing of karma for our heroines, and above all else, at least they got the relatively better VA of these two to do most of the talking. Seriously, what idiots signed the paychecks for this performance?
Doremi さんたちはいつも花ちゃんのことを何より第一に考えているだ。You suck!
As a result, Majohart essentially gave them a fail pass, allowing them to make amends at the next test, where she would give them a chance to retroactively pass this one. With that, the episode ended with the cephalopods giving our heroines a magical herb that had been given to them as successful examinees, and they laughed at about 2 frames per second. This was just an okay episode. I mean, there wasn't anything that stood out on any major front, but at least there also wasn't anything frustratingly bad. I mean, personally, if it wasn't clear, I'm not a fan of the cephalopod family with Daddy Can't Act and their mutant baby. But that aside, there were good moments here where the Ojamajo managed to really show off their goodwill and integrity. Again, nothing too special here, just kind of little minor developments, but hey, that's Tessa in a nutshell. Breaking this episode down into essentially 3 parts, I can say 2/3 of it were good. Obviously, I didn't care for the first test, as I just felt the Ojamajo getting a yellow card for it felt a little forced. Fortunately, how they got the other 2 cards were justified in that while they were doing morally the right thing in both cases, they were also breaking the rules. Again, sometimes there's no real right or wrong answers, just what we perceive as such. That was likely part of Masha Heart's reasoning for fail passing them in order to keep up appearances because this lady is just a very loud tsundere. But yeah, good character work for her, again showing that while she is very by the book, she's also not above finding some loopholes for those honestly trying their best, which the Ojamajo certainly were doing. That said, as a piece of entertainment, this didn't feel all that eventful of an episode, even though technically things did happen, like them acquiring the magical herb and even the fail pass. I don't know, it just didn't have the same energy as the first health exam, as it was more focused on the conflict with the yellow cards, which isn't necessarily a bad thing if that's what they wanted to focus on. But at the same time, I do wish there had been a little more comedy and a lot less focus on the superfluous elements like the Motas and especially the cephalopod family. I know I keep saying this, but god, Hachiharu's VA is just the worst. Still, overall, this was just an okay episode. Could have used a few more laughs, and some of the animation was wonky, but hey, at least they taught the most important lesson of all. Don't open all the chests until you've significantly level grind. With that, we're gonna get back to work on the 6th Ranger video, and hopefully get it out sometime next week or so. Yeah, sorry if August has felt like a bit of a slow month here, but it was a pretty busy month for me. Don't worry though, we'll try to pump out as much content for this channel as well as the secondary channel before the year's end. So look forward to it, and until then though, farewell for now my friends, and if you'll excuse me, I gotta make an appointment with my eye doctor. Yeah, hello doc, are we still on for Friday? Okay, good. So, I heard that this new test is going to involve an obstacle course for some reason.